There are some who would say that a picture is worth 1,000 words, but to the Boulder Police Department, they're worth about $50. That's how much the CUPD plans to give anyone who can identify the people in these pictures on their website. The pictures were taken by undercover police officers during 420, a celebration.
Oh, it happens every year.
Where students gather at Fair and Field and openly smoke marijuana. This year, the university closed the field and set up barricades to keep the students away. But when the students rushed the field,
nobody could stop this.
Police started to take pictures of faces in the hope that they could be identified later and fined $100 for trespassing.
This was done as a message to the students that we don't like this event.
So far, the website has 200 photos. 73 have been identified.
It got a far greater response than we expected.
Equally unexpected, students are starting to fight back with help from two civil rights attorneys who say it was unconstitutional for the university to close the field.
The university can shut their property down for no reason, but they can't shut it down for an improper reason.
The attorney's argument goes like this. Because some people were on Fair and Field to protest marijuana laws, it's illegal for the university to close the field, because that would be an infringement against their right to freely assemble.
And it is solely meant to try to chill, in our opinion, people from assembling and making a peaceful protest.
The attorneys are giving free advice to students to help them fight the trespassing charge.
This is kind of the first step for me. I'm kind of in the dark on this one.
It's too early to tell exactly how many students will fight the tickets or if they'll be successful. But the university hopes the website will scare enough students so that next year, instead of this,
God bless Boulder!
Fair and Field will look like this. Thomas Hendrick, News Team Boulder. Since its creation 4 years ago, the Honor Code staff has worked to punish and prevent cheating and plagiarism. But a series of accounts by students accused of violating the Honor Code reveal holes in the system that are hurting potentially innocent people. Rami Saeed is one such example. After being accused of plagiarism, Saeed's professor gave him an ultimatum.
And basically what ended up happening is that she told me that I need to sign this piece of paper that said that if I didn't sign it, I basically would be in a lot more trouble.
Saeed signed the form, but says he didn't realize that it essentially forced him to admit guilt. Nowhere on the form does it say that Saeed couldn't have a hearing, and only in small print at the top does it say he accepts responsibility for the violation.
When you're in these situations, you're kind of going with what your teacher is telling you.
Conversations with other students revealed that many professors were making the same claims as Saeed's, pressuring their students to admit guilt before they were ready to. Last year, 157 incidents were reported to the Honor Code office. Only 32 of those were granted a hearing. That means only 20% of the students accused were allowed to make their case before a panel. And that, says critics of the Honor Code, suggests the number of professors telling their students to admit guilt prematurely is very high.
I think a good 90% of the kids at my ethics seminar had the same problem where, they discovered that we didn't know that by signing this, we admitted to guilt.
Some believe the Honor Code should provide counsel to accused students to describe the choices, either accept guilt or appear before a panel.
Whether they're guilty or not, I think they have the right to be defended by somebody who has more knowledge of that system than themselves.
Officials with the Honor Code say they understand the problem and they're working to fix it.
We're planning on meeting up individually with each of the new faculty members and sitting down with them individually and explaining exactly what we do, what the university policy is, and what the expectation is out from them.
They also reworked the culpability form to include a warning below the student's signature, saying that by signing, they accept responsibility. The hope is that these measures will clear up the confusion on both sides. Thomas Hendrick, News Team Boulder. As the sun rises on the last Friday of every month, ranchers from around the western half of the United States gather in La Junta to buy and sell horses.
Anywhere from 150 to 200, I imagine.
Many of the horses will become the new family pet, and others will be sold to these men who have a very different objective.
You'll find that the slaughterhouse, or killer buyers as we call them, will be attending these auctions ready to load up their trucks for horses to go to slaughter. So many of the horses
Hillary Wood says much of the meat would be used for food in Europe, but if she has her way, the sale of horse meat for human consumption would become illegal. Wood runs the Front Range Equine Rescue and backs legislation to end the sale of horse meat for human consumption.
Slaughter is not a good option. There's no reason that our horses that we consider almost like our friends, our companions, that this is a cruel way just to provide some food for fancy European restaurants.
Many horse owners support slaughter. They say there are few cheap ways to get rid of unwanted horses. Paying veterinarians to euthanize horses can cost hundreds, and in some places, especially on the western slope, there are few options for disposing of carcasses. John Campbell runs an auction house where the proposed law has become the talk of the town.
I said you can hire a vet to come out and euthanize them, or you can take them to the packing plant and have them euthanized.
Eugene Carney has worked for the auction house for close to 70 years.
You ain't going to stop people from France and some foreign countries eating horse meat.
And because horse meat is used for other purposes, like feeding the lions and tigers at the Denver Zoo, the bill can only hope to slow the slaughter of horses, not stop it.
What have you changed? I mean, the animal still goes to slaughter. Now it's only worth 12 cents a pound rather than 70. I mean, we'll kill just as many regardless of what the price is.
But for Hillary Wood, this is a debate over ethics.
And a lot of people, definitely, we consider our horses part of our family.
You don't dictate to people through law what their ethical standard is.
For now, the auction house in La Junta will continue to sell horses, some for slaughter, at least until Congress says otherwise. Now, the bill we're talking about here is called the American Horse Slaughter Prevention Act, and 3 times now it has been before Congress, and all 3 times it has failed. Supporters say, however, that this year will be different because the number of co-sponsors, more than 100, will help the bill's chances. We'll send it back to you guys in the studio. Opposition to the Danish cartoons sparked violent protests in many Muslim countries and a debate over the limits of free speech. And now that debate has come to the University of Colorado. Recently, a conservative magazine based at CU republished the 12 cartoons, along with an article calling Islam, quote, a religion of violence. The magazine outraged members of MSA, the Muslim Student Association.
I was pretty offended by it. I think it was insensitive.
We're just so ultra-sensitive, and we don't want to offend people.
C.J. Richardson wrote the Flatirons article.
If you write something that generalizes all people, all of a sudden there's some controversy created. And, you know, for a conservative newsletter, that's usually the goal.
The dilemma over how to criticize religion, while at the same time not driving away readers, was a dilemma faced by newspapers all over the country. The solution for the Rocky Mountain News was to go ahead and publish 2 of the cartoons, along with cartoons criticizing other religions. John Temple, the editor-in-chief of the Rocky Mountain News, wrote in an editorial that he believes that cartoons are free speech and therefore fair game. Bronson Hilliard is the managing editor of the Colorado Daily. His paper decided not to run the cartoons.
I never got the sense from the community that there was a burning desire for us to either run the cartoons or to not run them.
Hilliard says, however, that journalists should not be afraid to publish controversial material, as long as they do so tastefully.
It's the price you pay for having a free society.
Showing the cartoons helped readers understand why so many people responded to them violently, says the magazine's editor-in-chief.
It was mostly an educational and also to make a point that we do stand behind freedom of speech.
And surprisingly, some members of MSA agree that the cartoons can serve to jumpstart education about Islam. Confusion about the true nature of Islam is what led MSA to host a week-long series of events to educate the public about the religion.
To bring awareness on the campus, you know, about what Muslims are, who Muslims are, what Islam is.
And he hopes stop future stereotypes and violence. Thomas Hendrick, News Team Boulder.